Our next performer will be Cody Gray on the saxophone. I don't think it's a Pilgrim impression.
In case.
And I can't imagine why a certain person was left at the altar. Our next performer will be someone in the audience who's volunteering to come next. We're not going by age. Do I have a volunteer? All right. And we know that Jesus will still love it. So we've been music. Why don't we have a story from Jan Manilby? Or, okay, from Jan Manilby.
Yay!
Now, you can tell when a teacher is telling a story because she'll bring along the picture book. But it is a story.
As a teacher, I have lots of children's books, and this one is a Teachers Read Aloud anthology. And it has lots and lots of stories, and I read how long it's supposed to be, and that's how I picked it. Okay? In the table of contents, it tells how many minutes it takes to tell the story. So I picked one that was within our time frame called The Great, Big, Enormous Turnip. And it is a Russian tale written by Alexei Tolstoy. Okay? Once upon a time, an old man planted a little turnip and said, "Grow, grow, little turnip, grow strong, grow sweet, grow, little turnip, grow strong." And the turnip grew up sweet and strong and big and enormous. Then one day, the old man went to pull it up. He pulled and pulled again, but he could not pull it up. He called the old woman. The old woman pulled the old man, and the old man pulled the turnip, and they pulled and pulled again, but they could not pull it up. So, the old woman called her granddaughter. The granddaughter pulled the old woman pulled the old man, the old man pulled the turnip, and they pulled and pulled again, but they could not pull it up. man pulled the turnip, and they pulled and pulled again, and they could not pull it. The black dog called the cat. Are you seeing the cat? The cat pulled the dog pulled the granddaughter pulled the old woman pulled the old man pulled the turnip, and they pulled and pulled again, but they still could not pull it up. The cat called the mouse. The mouse pulled the cat pulled the dog pulled the granddaughter pulled the old woman pulled the old man pulled the turnip, they pulled and pulled again, and up came the turnip at last. It does have pictures, but it's not exactly a picture book.
Want some music?
Stories.
All right, let's see. Do we have Patrick? Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, but not with a story.
Ah, okay.
I got an act.
Oh. So, from the book of Acts.
Prepare, yes. Prepare to be amazed. All right. So, what I'm going to do. I'm going to juggle. Yeah, juggle. All right. First of all, I'm going to juggle one. Now, I'm going to juggle two. Who's laughing now, right? Okay, juggle two. Now I'm going to juggle three.
There we go.
All right. So you guys are wondering what it was like to be a pastor. This is basically what a pastor does. Senior minister of the church. No, really, I sit in my office and juggle oranges. So I've got a few tricks here. This one's called the under the leg trick. And that didn't work. Try it again. At first you don't succeed. Okay, this one is called the behind the back trick. Behind the back trick, thank you. And off the foot and knee. Okay, now, for the really big finish, I call this the really big deal. And it's not a juggling trick, it's a card trick. Okay, so, I need it's a brand new deck of cards. I need a volunteer. I need an adult. I'm sorry, I'm going to have an adult. We're not drinking alcohol.
That
but I still need an
leaves
adult.
me out.
Yeah, definitely not Tom.
Yeah.
Let's see, who wants to be? You're going to do it, Dan? All right, very good. So good, Dan, you're a good one. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give some instructions to Dan. Dan, I want you to open this up, and I want you to take out 21 cards, count out 21 cards, and I want you to randomly pick a card and tell everybody in the audience what it is while I'm gone. Okay. I'm going to leave. You open that up, pick out 21 cards, and then somebody come get me when he's picked out a card.
He's going in and out.
Okay, so let's have the next three acts ready, and we'll just shoot right. No. I can do that, but that will get me in trouble on Sunday.
Aren't you glad you did that?
And you know know what you get if you practice that long? Long and long and long? Applesauce.
Juice?
Oh.
I know juice.
No, that was the joke because it went all the way through his leg. All right, that one. Read it back. Read it back.
Would he lie to you? I don't know. Are you sure you're not Michelle on that?
Don't tell me, Brady, didn't tell me. Oh, goodness. All right, so 21 cards here. Now, here's what we're going to do, and I don't know which one. Did you shuffle them? Yeah, go ahead and shuffle them real well. And you guys know what the card is?
Yes.
Okay. So, here's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to put all these out here, Daniel. Don't say anything until I ask you to. But I want you to tell me, once I'm done putting all these out here, I want you to tell me which row your card is in.
The first one.
It's in this first row, okay. All right, now, I'm going to lay these out a second time. I want you to wait till I put them all out on the table. And now tell me which row is in. Second row, okay. All right,
It's moving.
now, last time, again, I want you to wait till I put them all on the table. And then I want you to tell me after I'm all done, which row is it in?
The second row.
Second row, all right. Now, I'm going to make two piles here. And I need for you to point to one of these two piles. Okay? Now, point to two cards out of these four. These two? Okay? Now point to one card. That's it.
Let's go ahead and have a musical act. The young man with the beard. Yeah, you didn't see the beard in the earlier picture.
But he did have the same voice from both.
Okay, so this is kind of last minute, so I'm only playing the bare necessities. Ha 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 ha. You'll see, funny. multiple different tips.
Unless they're playing in the apartment below you.
And unless one of them is a soprano.
So I got a couple of songs for you guys. We'll play some Disney songs first. You guys like Lion King?
Yeah.
So.
And despite the fact of how much I love music, I don't have a musical bone in my body. So you're going to get a story from me today. So most of you are probably familiar with the old storytelling poem, Casey at the Bat. Written in 1888 by Ernest Baird, the poem tells the story of a baseball game that takes place in the fictional town of Mudville. I had the honor of hearing it read to me by my great-great-grandmother as a kid. Some may have seen a cartoon version of it put out by Disney. Either way, if you've heard it, read it, or seen it, then you know the tale of a baseball team that is inevitably losing unless their one-star player, Casey, can get up to bat in the final inning of the game. The fans are not holding too much hope that he will ever make it to bat to pull off this miracle. Some even leaving the field early in despair. However, to everyone's surprise, two of the team's worst batters somehow get on base, sending Casey up to bat. Suddenly the mood in the stands change. Mudville fans are up, jumping, whooping, and hollering, just sure that now the game is in the bag. For those who haven't heard the story or seen the Disney cartoon, spoiler alert, Casey strikes out. And the scene rolls out of a very disappointed crowd with the last line reading, "There is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out." This is not the poem I will be sharing with you today. As a lover of redemption stories, I'm going to share with you a poem written in 1907 by Grantland Rice that is about a baseball game that takes place one season later, same two teams, same pitcher and batter, same field. So here is Casey's Revenge. Okay. There were saddened hearts in Mudville for a week or even more. They were muttered oaths and curses. Every fan in town was sore. "Just think," said one, "how soft it looked with Casey at the bat, and to think he'd go and spring a bush league trick like that." All his past fame was forgotten. He was now a hopeless shrine. They called him Strikeout Casey, from the mayor down the line. And as he came to bat each day, his bosom heaved with a sigh, while a look of hopeless fury shone in mighty Casey's eye. He pondered in the days gone by that he had been their king, that when he strolled up to the plate, they made the heavens ring. But now his nerve had vanished, for when he heard them hoot, he fanned or popped out daily like a minor league recruit. He soon began to sulk and loaf, his batting eye went lame. No home runs on the scorecard now were chalked against his name. The fans, without exception, gave the manager no peace, for one and all kept clamoring for Casey's quick release. The Mudville squad began to slump. The team was in the air. Their playing went from bad to worse. Nobody seemed to care. "Back to the woods with Casey," was the cry from the rooters' row. "Get someone who can hit the ball and let that big dope go." The lane is long, someone has said, that never turns again, and fate, though fickle, often gives another chance to men. And Casey smiled. His rugged face no longer wore a frown. The pitcher who had started all this trouble had returned to town. All Mudville had assembled. 10,000 fans had come to see the twirler who had put big Casey on the bum. And when he stepped into the box, the multitude went wild. He doffed his cap in proud disdain, but Casey only smiled. "Play ball!" the umpire's voice rang out, and then the game began. But in the throng of thousands, there was not a single fan who thought that Mudville had a chance, that with the setting sun, their hopes sank low. The rival team was leading 4-1. The last half of the ninth came round with no change in the score. But when the first man up hit safe, the crowd began to roar. Hope did rise. The echo of 10,000 shouts were heard when the pitcher hit the second and gave 4 balls to the third. 3 men on base, nobody out, 3 runs to tie the game. A triple meant the highest niche in Mudville's Hall of Fame. But where the rally ended, and the gloom was deep as night, when the fourth one fouled to catcher and the fifth flew out to right. A dismal groan in chorus came, a scowl was on each face, when Casey walked up, bat in hand, and slowly took his place. His bloodshot eyes in fury gleamed, his teeth were clenched in hate. He gave his cap a vicious hook and pounded on the plate. But famous fleeting as the wind and glory fades away, there were no wild and woolly cheers, no glad acclaim this day. They hissed and groaned and hooted as they clamored, "Strike him out!" But Casey gave no outward sign that he had heard this shout. The pitcher smiled and cut one loose. Across the plate it sped. Another hiss, another groan. "Strike one!" the umpire said. Zip! Like a shot, the second curve broke just below the knee. "Strike two!" the umpire roared aloud. But Casey made no plea. No resting for the umpire now. He was an easy lot. But here the pitcher rolled again. What? Was that a rifle shot? A whack, a crack, and out through space the leather pellet flew. A blot against the distant sky, a speck against the blue. Above the fence in center field, in rapid, whirling flight, the sphere sailed on, the blot grew dim, and then was lost in sight. 10,000 hats were thrown in the air, 10,000 threw a fit. But no one ever found the ball that mighty Casey hit. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, dark clouds may hide the sun. And somewhere bands no longer playing, and children have no fun. And somewhere over blighted lives there hangs a heavy pall. But Mudville hearts are happy now, for Casey hit the ball.
It's music, 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 which oddly was my mother's maiden name. Just once, one music. And coming up next, slowly.
What else is new?
Can I help you with that chair, Tom?
I'm good.
Okay.
This is the result of people knowing each other really well. We were discussing this talent show the other day as Nancy drove me home from church, because I didn't know anything about it. And we started to think, well, what should we do? And we went through some songs, and Nancy brought up a song that she had no idea that I knew. And it's a song that I've done most of my life. It's one of my go-tos. But I don't think I've ever done it here. No. No, that's only for tomorrow Sunday. Have I ever done it, Nancy? Have you ever done it? And she just mentioned it off the top of her head, like, that would be something good for you to do, Tom. I said, how did you know that that's one of my songs? She said, no. And I said, yes. And so, with Nancy's clairvoyance, because clairvoyance is her middle name. It ain't worth it. This is called Saturday Night in Toledo, Ohio is like being nowhere at all. Saturday night in Toledo, Ohio is like being nowhere at all. All through the days, how the hours rush by, you sit in the park and you watch the grass die. But after the sunset, the dusk and the twilight, when shadows of night start to fall, they roll back the sidewalks precisely at 10, and people who've been there are not seen again. from Great Falls, Montana, and a salesman from places unknown says unknown. All huddled together in downtown Toledo to spend their big night all alone. You ask how I know of Toledo, Ohio. Well, I spent a week there one day. They've got entertainment to dazzle your eyes. Go visit the bakery and watch the buns rise. But let's not forget that the folks of Toledo unselfishly gave us the scale. I hate him. I just hate him. No springs, honest weight. That's the promise they made. So smile and be thankful next time you get weighed. And live and let live. Let this be our motto. Let's let the sleeping dogs lie. The pink dogs alive. And here's to the dogs of Toledo, Ohio. You know what's coming next. Ladies, we bid you goodbye. Ooh.
It looks like Nancy Rotowald is coming to the stage. Excitement is felt throughout the crowd.
It's more exciting to see me get up.
It's almost up. Because some people have some of their toes dealt with recently, and it makes one appreciate one's body parts. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen to your toes sometimes. So here's a poem about noses. Noses by Jack Palensky. Be glad your nose is on your face, not pasted in some other place. For if it were where it is not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose were sandwiched in between your toes. That clearly would not be a treat, for you'd be forced to smell your feet. Your nose would be a source of dread were it attached atop your head. It soon would drive you to despair, forever tickled by your hair. Within your ear, your nose would be an absolute catastrophe. Because if you were obliged to sneeze, your brain would rattle from the breeze. So, your nose, through thick and thin, remains between your eyes and chin, not pasted in some other place. Be glad your nose is on your face.
See Sharon.
Sharon's here.
Oh,
Where is Sharon? Where did Sharon go? She had a thing.
no, we're talking about Sharon Clapp.
Yeah, she's on the list.
Yeah, I don't see her. She may not have made it.
Maybe she makes positive sisters.
Yeah, that's also
Okay. That story reminds me of my cousin No Nose. People would ask, how does he smell? I'd say, terrible. He's always afraid if he takes a shower, he'll drown. Okay. Exactly. So, Susan wants to go last. So, why don't we go with Cynthia Eves?
use the...
Yes, I can talk louder. Can you hear me?
What?
Don't do it. Don't open that little box one more crack. Don't ask me to marry you. Shh, shh. Don't say another word. Just listen. I can't let you do this to me. Before I met you, I was such a jerk. Everybody at the office thought I was a huge jerk. No one liked me. Yeah, those people I introduced you to as my friends, they're not my friends. They're scared of me. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I just totally blanked out. Can I start over?
Yes.
Can you hear me back there?
Yes.
My husband's giving me a look. Don't look at her. Okay.
The problem was I opened the box.
Ah.
Very funny. Don't do it. Don't open that little box one more crack. Don't ask me to marry you. Shh, shh. Don't say another word. Just listen. I can't let you do this to me. Before I met you, I was such a jerk. Everyone at work thought I was a huge jerk. No one likes me. Those people I introduced to you as my friends, they're not my friends. They're scared of me. But since being with you, I've begun to feel all warm inside, fuzzy. I find myself wanting to stroll in the park and whistle. And I have these thoughts, these urges to donate to charity and work at soup kitchens and hug people. Don't you see? Don't you see? You're making me nice. And what I'm really scared of is you're going to open that little box and ask me to marry you, and I'll nicely say yes, and then I'll be nice for life. So please, put the box away. I mean, the planet already has millions of nice people. It doesn't need me to. Please, stop. Don't. I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you, will you please, please not marry me?
Well, I was afraid we were going to come down with mono logs. And here is Mr. Cedric Rogers. All right.
I'm going to try this microphone. Yeah, it seems to be working. At least I seem to be working. I've been told that if you start a story with Ronald Reagan, you can't go wrong. So I'm going to do that. This is a story called Two Lifeguards. And the first lifeguard is Ronald Reagan. And he became a lifeguard in Dixon, Illinois. He was in Lowell Park on the Rock River. And he was, well, as lifeguards go, I think he was really good. And he rescued a lot of people. In fact, some people said he rescued too many people. And there were some kind of suspicions. Well, let's do a little statistics. My impression of the average lifeguard is that they would hope not to see more than one rescue a week. They don't want to be doing it all the time. They're hoping people just don't get into that condition. So, but I think he was up to about 10 or 15 a day. And the question is, how did he do that? Well, I have a little book here that tells me how he did it. And Lorraine has passed around a copy of one page, just to give you an idea, that what the book says. I got this book because my father this is the Royal Life Saving Society Handbook of Instruction, how to rescue people. And the first thing they tell you is, make sure they're drowning. If they're not drowning, then you've got to make sure they're drowning. So there's all sorts of moves in here so that you can improve their drowning condition to the point where you can handle them. I mean, if you come up to somebody who's drowning and they're shaking around and they grab you around the neck, you've got to know what to do about it. You can't just be taken down with that sort of behavior. So anyway, obviously he knew his job. He rescued a lot of people, and I don't know if you've heard this, but even Boy Scouts are guilty sometimes. They help old ladies across the road because they have to do a good turn to somebody every day. And not everybody wants to cross the road, you know, but they help them across the road anyway. And I think Reagan may have done a little bit about that. So if we rate lifeguards on a scale from 0 to 10, Reagan comes in about 11 or maybe 15. Really good. Anyway, I had this little book because my father did this sort of thing. He learned the Royal Life Saving, they called it life saving in those days. And I looked at his book, and I was going to high school at that time, and I thought, I didn't learn to swim until I was 14, but I began to get quite good at it immediately. And so I thought, well, I could do all these tests, and I took all the tests, and I got a bronze medallion, the same as my father. He got a silver medallion, but they'd run out of silver by then, so I got a gilt and enamel medallion. So yeah, it's sort of, they changed the name, it's called Award of Merit. And I went on and got an instructor certificate, and I mean, you might think this isn't relevant, but I also joined the church choir. Thank you. And what's relevant about that is that it's all about breathing. Swimming, breathing. I also took up scuba diving eventually, and there's a lot of learning not to breathe is the key to that. Anyway, so when I finished high school, I was in the choir, and it turned out there was a man in the choir who was the manager of 2 swimming pools. So I got a summer job, just like that, just by knowing somebody. And I went and worked at this first pool, and I had all these qualifications, but none of the other people did. There could have been a little bit of resentment there, because I got paid more than anybody who was regular there. And they didn't call us lifeguards at all. The actual title of the job was baths attendant. People used to go there to get a bath, and there were swimming pools, and it was 120 feet long, this pool, and 36 feet wide. They said, you don't have to jump in to rescue anybody. If somebody gets into trouble, just throw in a wooden chair. And they also said, and we've got these poles, they're 12 feet long, and it's, that must have been 15 feet, I don't know, it was 36 feet wide. And these poles were more than half the length, anyway. Yeah, it must be 20 feet. And so you could just hold one of those out and people would get in. They could grab the pole and you could pull them in. You didn't have to get in the water. I only got in the water once there because somebody very cleverly arranged to throw me in. And that sort of thing went on in London. It's just one of those things. Anyway, then the next year I got a job at a different pool, but under the same manager. And while I was there, a talent scout came around. I call her that now because it sounds good. But she actually said, you don't need to spend all your days indoors here. We've got an outdoor pool. Why don't you come and work for me? So I went from some borough council to the London County Council. And I think there was more pay, more overtime, lots of benefits, and it was a huge pool, 165 feet long and 90 feet wide. I learned it in yards, so I'd have to spend a lot of time calculating when I say these things. Anyway, it was very much. You could have 6 lifeguards all around it. And the thing about being a lifeguard is it's really, really boring. Nothing happens. And you have a hard time staying awake even. Anyway, we were there on a very busy day. Now that's not boring. And one day I saw my supervisor in the water. I said, "What are you doing there?" And she was very annoyed because she just rescued somebody and I hadn't noticed. So I may have had all the techniques ready, but I didn't get in the water. And so as you start to rate lifeguards from 0 to 10, I'm hovering down near 0 or possibly below 0. So I didn't get a job there next year. They weren't very honest about it. They should have just told me I wasn't any good. But they didn't do that. They just said they didn't have a place for me. So I begged, and they sent me to a place in a tough district of London. I guess nobody wanted to go there. But I knew somebody who went to school there, so it didn't bother me. So I went there, and by now I'd been going to college. I'd been doing scuba diving. It's actually 1963, I remember the day. And I got in the first morning. Well, I was in college now, and I'd had really tough exams, a big party the night before, and I went in with a terrible hangover. But I was a very confident swimmer, and I'd always been able to swim better when I was tired than when I was healthy. I don't know why that is, it's just weird, but that's the way I'm built. And so I wasn't worried, and I'd done the job so many times, and this was a smaller pool, and I knew I'd have less responsibility. So I just went in and hoped that I wouldn't have to do anything that day at all. I was just really hungover. And it was one of those quiet days, the same awful weather that we had at the other pool. And nobody came except one person. And there'd always be one person who'd come. The lifeguard couldn't really go and hide in a corner or have a coffee or stop or do anything. You've got to be watching the whole pool because there's one person in, and they might get in the water. So, not very often in England, but they do. Anyway, this turned out to be a teenager, and he was a brat. He was a problem. He went to fight. And so he was constantly jumping at me and tussling and playing around, and I didn't know what to do with him because I don't think the supervisor will watch him. I think I had the whole place to myself, but I didn't. I wasn't going to cause any trouble. I was an employee. So anyway, he just kept on at me for so long that eventually he was holding my hands or something, and he pulled hard, and we were going towards the water, and I could see nothing was going to happen except I was going in the water. And so I held on tight, and he came in with me, and then I had this sudden, enormous transformation. Like on land, I'm no match for anyone. But in water, I can win. And so we plunged into the water together, and now I was in charge. And there wasn't anything he could do about it. Well, there's 2 endings to this story. I'll try out the first one. I just drowned him. Okay, the second ending. I got in there and I got him on underneath me, and I trod him and put him down to the bottom, and I counted up to 30, which is how long the average person can hold their breath if they're really good. And when I got out, he said, "You nearly drowned me." But he never caused any trouble again. And so now Now, if I count that as a drowning, I'm down about -1, my rating as a lifeguard. But I had a quiet season for the rest of the year, and thank you very much.
I think we should take a vote. All those who like the first ending better?
And Cedric will be our advisor for full immersion baptisms.
He's also going to keep right.
Now, we're saving someone for last, so
Right.
Megan and I are going to go next, I hope. And years and years ago, I learned the secret to a successful relationship and marriage. It's don't antagonize someone you're going to be lying unconscious next to. Now, we like to do other people's material, but we only steal from the best. And this is George Carlin's observation about baseball and football.
Baseball is different from any other sport, very different. For instance, in most sports, you score points or goals. In baseball, you score runs. In most sports, the ball or object is put into play by the offensive team. In baseball, the defensive team puts the ball in play, and only the defense is allowed to touch the ball. In fact, in baseball, if an offensive player touches the ball intentionally, he's out. Sometimes unintentionally, he's out.
Also, in football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, and all sports played with a ball, you score with the ball. And in baseball, the ball prevents you from scoring.
In most sports, the team is run by a coach. In baseball, the team is run by a manager. And only in baseball does the manager or coach wear the same clothing the players do.
This dates me a little, but if you'd ever seen John Madden in his Oakland Raiders uniform, you know the reason for disgusting.
Now, I've mentioned football. Baseball and football are the two most popular spectator sports in this country, and as such, it seems they ought to be able to tell us something about ourselves and our values.
And we enjoy comparing baseball and football.
Baseball is a 19th century pastoral game.
Football is a 20th century technological struggle.
Baseball is played on a diamond in a park, the baseball park.
Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium.
Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life.
Football begins in the fall when everything's dying.
In football,
you wear a helmet.
in baseball, you wear a cap.
Football is concerned with downs. What down is it?
Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up?
In football, you receive a penalty.
In baseball, you make an error.
In football, the specialist comes in to kick.
In baseball, the specialist comes in to relieve somebody.
Football has hitting, clipping, spearing, piling on, personal fouls, late hitting, and unnecessary roughness.
Baseball has the sacrifice.
Football is played in any kind of weather. Rain, snow, sleet, hail, fog, it doesn't matter.
In baseball, if it rains, we don't go out to play. Baseball has the 7th inning stretch.
Football has a 2-minute warning.
Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. Might have extra innings.
Football is rigidly timed, and it will end even if you have to go to sudden death.
In baseball, during the game, in the stands, there's kind of a picnic feeling. Emotions may run high or low, but there's not too much unpleasantness.
In football, during the game, in the stands, you can be sure that at least 27 times during a game, you're capable of taking the life of a fellow human being.
And finally, the objectives of the two games are completely different.
In football, the object for the quarterback, also known as the field general, is to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy in spite of a blitz, even if he has to go with a shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack that punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line.
In baseball, the object is to go home and to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home.
And after the next performance, we hope you'll all be safe on your way home.
Okay. It's a 3-minute song and then we're out of here. We're going home.
I will be safe.
Okay. Are you gonna sit there?
You want me more this way, or you want?
Right here. Yeah, okay, so here. All right, you need that, Tom?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Again, this is the best part of the show.
Yay! Okay, Brian, you did it.
Wait. Let me get
Wherever we go, whatever we do, we're gonna go through it together. We may not go far, but sure as a star, wherever we are, we're together. Wherever I go, I know he goes.
Wherever I go, I know she goes.
No fits, no fights, no feuds, and no egos. We goes together, through thick and through thin, all out or all in, and whether it's wind, place, or show, it's you for me,
And me for you,
we'll muddle through whatever we do together, wherever we go. Wherever we go, whatever we do, we're gonna go through it together. Whenever we sleep, if prices are steep, we'll always sleep cheaper together. You hit the floor.
whatever the boat I row, you row.
Whatever the road I hope you row.
And Andy, I owe you, you owe.
No, you owe.
No, we owe.
Together, we all take a bow.
With a toe somehow. And
It's flow. With Susan's bill.
and Nancy's verb. And all we need is someone to
With nerve.
together.
Together.
Wherever.
Wherever.
Together. Wherever we go. We go in a group.
We tour in a troop.
We go in the super we know. It's gonna do and crazy. Go this way, Lancy. Together.
Together.
Wherever.
Wherever.
Together. Wherever we go.
Thank you for performing. I'll be thanking everyone else. I know you're getting ready because cupcakes are going to be available in the gym. So thanks to Cynthia Eads, the whole Campbell family, Christian, DJ, and Sarah, Cody Gray, Patrick, Flynn, Tom Mazur, But McCormick's, it was more than just Charlie and Harrison, it was the whole family. McCormick clan, Nancy Rodewald, Cedric Rogers, Susan Winkler, and Meg and I enjoyed ourselves. And thank you for not making me use the electric fly swatter to get anyone off the stage. But I was prepared.